Hello and welcome to the channel. We are going to be completing our USP compact upgrade video. This is part 3 of the series and we'll be looking at this guy here, the USP compact we've been previously upgrading to finish the internal upgrades off. But before we get on with the video today, if you like today's content, please like the video, and if you like the content we produce, also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon so you can be told about our videos in the future. So moving on, let's look at this guy. So what have we done so far? Well, this gun started off life as a stock Tokyo Marui USP compact. What we've added to it so far is a new internal barrel. We have got a 91mm Crazy Jet barrel, a Maple Leaf Autobot hop bucking. We have a Detonator external barrel. We have also got a Detonator slide, DCI sights. We have also added a new piston head to the piston on the inside. And today's video we're going to be looking at these two items here. So the first of these is the Recoil Spring. We're going to be upgrading the Recoil Spring. This is from RCC. It's a USP compact spring set. You get two types of spring in here. You get a 130% and a 70% spring set. The other thing we're going to be doing here as well is again from RCC, the USP compact hammer spring. Again, you get a 70% spring and a 130% spring. Now, they don't really mark these, or if they do, it's in Japanese and it's a little bit tricky to read. But the best way to check these out is just give them a squeeze. And the hardest one to squeeze, which happens to be this one on the right, is the 130. And this is the hammer spring. And likewise for the Recoil Spring, this one is on the right, the 130 and the 70 on the left. So first things first, let's break down the gun and then we'll actually install the hammer spring first. So I'll put those to one side and let's get this gun apart. So take out the mag, get the slide released. And we take that off there, and then we can slide off. We are going to be working on this guy first, so let's keep that to one side, and then we're going to be working on this guy second and replacing this. So let's pop that over here. So the hammer spring on this guy is located here, and we get at that by releasing this pin just here. So to do this, we need one of our punches, and we can just push that out with our hands. You can use a hammer if you need to. Sometimes it's a little bit stiff, but this one's actually not so bad. So we've got our pin, and then we've got our spring. The spring's in this nice little holder. We just need to sort of kind of push this down, and we'll just use that to do this. There is obviously the original spring. This is I'm not sure what it's coated in, but it looks like it's anodized black. Not sure of the strength of that, but what we'll also do is we'll just grease this up a little bit before we build this. So let's pop this into a bit of grease. Pop that on top, and then let's break open our packaging here. Get our spring out. So we want this 130 spring. There we go. So there is a Laylax spring which I was potentially going to use, but I actually opted for that one. It's a variable. The Laylax spring is a variable strength spring, but we'll use this one here. I've just kind of lubed up both sides. I'll drop this into the grap. Now when re-putting this together, and I don't know if you can see in here, you have to be careful. I almost damaged this, but just in here there is this little metal arm which is connected to the trigger assembly, and when you're putting this back together you need to make sure it's up against the back here. So when you're popping this back in, it catches onto the little cup in there, and that way you can push it in nicely. If you get any kind of resistance pushing this down, you've probably not got that bar, that little bar actually into the little cup. Be very careful because that does bend. And what I will do is I'll just pop that in, just make sure that's in, and then we'll check, does the trigger cycle? Yep, the trigger cycle, so we are good. So that's the hammer spring replaced. Very, very straightforward, very simple change to that. And that basically just gives, because I'm using heavier gases with this pistol because I've got a heavier slide, it's good to replace that trigger spring just to give it a bit more oomph for firing. So pop that to one side, and then we'll grab this guy here. So we are going to be taking this piece out. We don't need any of that. This is a double spring, and there's an O-ring there, which just acts as a bit of kind of a stop when that goes back. To actually get this off, there's a little actual knack to this, and it took me a minute to figure this one out, but the actual bar comes apart. So you pull the spring back and give that a twist, and then this end piece comes off, and then your springs will pop off, and then your bar, and then your big spring, and then you've got a little carrier here. So we're going to use, we need this O-ring, so we'll take that off here. So those are the two old springs. So let's get into the packaging. So we said the one on the right was the actual heavier of the two springs. Yeah, that's definitely the thing. The other thing you can see as well is that as well as being a bit tighter, the actual thickness of this is actually greater. So for instance, if I get my calipers out, I can, it's 0.73 mil. I think, I'm pretty sure this will be a bit thinner because it's a lighter gauge wire if memory serves. The coils as well will be, yeah, so that's a 0.68. So this is definitely the 70% spring. So it's one of the ways you can check these springs is test the compression, but also test the thickness of the wire. So basically the way this goes back together, and don't want it running off, pop the big spring on, pop the little guard back on, pop that spring in there, we'll pop our O-ring over the top of that and get that in place. And this is where it gets a little bit fiddly, especially if it's covered in grease. That just pops back together, it's a bit stiffer. And what we'll do is then pop this back into the pistol and then lock that in. That I'll rack this a bit, and that should just pop that back into place, and that's nice and snug. Because this is new spring, we're going to pop a bit of lubrication on that spring, and that should rack back nicely. So this is probably going to be a very short video today because it's a very quick fix sort of thing. So what we'll do is pop that to one side. No BBs, and then oh, that's very nice and crisp. Just look at that cycle. It's very nice and crisp cycling. Very, very crisp. Good. This has now got a good hefty weight to it. The actual recoil on this is actually pretty nice. I mean, if we just kind of look at my arm, we fire it. Nice bit of recoil there. I can feel it in that muscle there. It's really nice. It's a good hefty kick to it. So what we have, it's a really nice gun, all nicely upgraded now. We've got our recoil spring, hammer spring. We have our outer barrel, a new slide, inner barrel hop booking, new sights. We have a piston. There's not much else we can do to this parts wise for this gun. There's not much else we can get. There is a essentially inside the nozzle there is a little valve that you can buy that I have seen. I've not seen a new nozzle for this gun yet, and I have looked just in case this one does split. There are no parts for the trigger mechanism that you can get upgraded in here, the trigger box, which is sort of in this area here. I've not seen anything for that, and also for the sort of the trigger element around here. Not seen anything in terms of upgrades that can go there. So effectively, we pretty much exhausted the things we can do to this gun. This shoots really nicely. I've done some test shooting with the older recoil spring that we've just removed, and the older hammer spring with Garda power-up gas, and that's performed really nicely. It moves that slide nicely. I've tried normal green gas as well. It's a little bit sluggish on the green gas, but I think that's possibly because of the temperature that it is at the moment. But it is shooting really nicely. Accuracy is pretty decent. With the hop adjusted for a 0.28 BB, it's doing really nicely. And it's shooting around the 300 FPS kind of mark on a 0.2. Probably actually a little bit more towards 320 actually at the moment with the Garda gas. But it is a really nice sort of pistol. Things I'm looking to do with this, I'm looking at potentially getting a light to go on here. Obviously I want to be able to use this with something like this guy, which is the Spitfire tracer unit. This fits on, as we've I think we've had this on previously, but very easy to get on. As you can see, fits nicely. We've got a range of suppressors and tracer units that will go on this, and that actually doesn't look too bad except for the whole white stuff on here, but that actually kind of looks quite nice. It cycles nicely, which is good. The weight in this doesn't impede the firing, which is really nice. I like that. But yeah, in terms of what to do next with this, it's pretty much good to go. I think the only thing I need now is to arrange a holster for this. So I'll be looking probably to get a Kydex holster made for this gun. It will need a custom holster being done because these sights are a little bit higher than sort of standard. Obviously I'm going to potentially have a light on this, and so on. So I think this is pretty much it for this video and the end of the series. So if you've enjoyed this series, please make sure to like the videos, watch all three. You'll get the various different ones. I've also got a HK45 series underway, which will, at the time you'll have seen this, the first issue episode will have sort of been published. There will be another episode where we complete some of the upgrades on that gun. That gun's getting a very similar makeover to this one, with new slide and outer barrel and so on. So yep, make sure to watch that video. It's very similar video to this, but the upgrades are the same. If there are, the other thing I'm potentially going to be looking at doing is a video that will be either a Glock or and it'll be a Glock 19 probably, or a SIG Air M17 or M18 pistol. So one of those three things will probably be another series that we'll be doing after that. I'm kind of working on the logistics of those and figuring out what parts to get. But keep an eye out for future content on the upgrade side. I'm also probably going to be live streaming a couple of things as well in the future on an upgrade. I've got one that's partly done, which I might live stream that one when I finish that one off soon. So thanks for watching. If you found today's video useful, the parts list will be in the description for this. The parts have been sourced from various places. I'm not putting links to the places I've got these because a lot of these were bought from Japanese sellers. I used a proxy service based in Japan to do the purchasing for me. And please check out the items and check out the link to the proxy service I've put in the description so you can potentially get these. I found that was the best way to get a lot of these because they're very difficult to get in the UK. Things like the slide was impossible. The springs and so on, everything was sourced from Japan. So with that, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys next time.